I don't know. Say it with me. I don't know. Good God, it is liberating. I am a towering mountain of ignorance. I don't know. We're taught to believe that everything has a reason. And so we observe the world, we see what happened, and then we define the thing that happened as the reason the thing happened. But I think a lot of the time we end up mixing up thinking something with knowing something. This is why it can be so impossible to talk about certain topics with certain people. They've tied those suppositions to themselves so tightly with knots of narrative and constructed reality and values that there's just no untying it. And maybe unsurprisingly, in those situations, the best course of action is just to be friends. Maybe even ask them about that thing that they've created, because to them, it's immensely valuable. The world as we perceive it, as we've built it inside of ourselves, is a lie that we tell to ourselves, not out of deception, but out of necessity. We have no other choice. We simply cannot understand the world as it is, and so we construct. But sometimes I just have to tell myself the thing that is definitely true, the truest thing I can say, which is that I don't know.
Never know.
This is the Everyone's Agnostic Podcast with Bob Pondillo and Cass Midgley.
And I remember the pastor of the church, which was one of the major churches in the Seventh-day Adventist Church, he sent me an email, and it was funny because it's like whoever was talking to him about me, they kind of trivialized who I am and like made it seem like I was only angry. But I feel that the reason why I truly left the Adventist Church, was I felt like I was out of integrity with myself by still being in the church, because I didn't believe many of the doctrines when I left the church. For myself, I couldn't be right with myself and still have my name in the books.
Welcome everyone to episode 146 of the Everyone's Agnostic Podcast. I'm Cass Midgley. Today, Dr. Bob Pondillo and I interview Colleen Jousma. She was raised Seventh-day Adventist and attended their flagship university to be a minister or missionary. She had and still has a big heart and wanted to help people. She didn't care much for trying to convert people. She taught English as a second language for a summer in the Ukraine and over a year in South Korea. Her deconstruction was slow and in gentle stages, with stops at Unity Church and John Shelby Spong. Today she lives in Southern California with her partner, volunteers at animal nonprofits, and is the director of resources at Recovering from Religion. She's a blogger and has written specifically about her deconversion and the personal development she has pursued post-Christianity. Links to her blogs are in the show notes. And she educates Bob and I on exactly what the mark of the beast is. Before our talk with Colleen, I want to address a conversation that happened this week on Bart Campolo's podcast, Humanize Me, with guest Michael Dowd. And I have to be honest with you, our talk with Michael Dowd back in December of 2014, episode 25, has been a bit of a haunt to me. The stuff that Michael Dowd purported about climate change in our talk and in his talk with Campolo looms large and ominous. My reluctance to accept it as truth feels similar to the difficulty I had facing the truths that eventually destroyed my faith. The mental and emotional cost of facing the music keeps people in their faith for years, after they know in their gut that it's bullshit. Similarly, the stuff that Michael Dowd is saying can be too much to bear. People like Dowd have been watching climate statistics and metrics and following the science and the periodicals, are so much further down the road when it comes to seeing reality for what it is. And they obviously have done the emotional work to stay in it and say yes to what is. I've always been intrigued by the concept of prophets, or a better word is seers. Not psychics, not clairvoyants, but people who have looked at the facts, at the data, and said yes to it. Not denied it, not covered their eyes or ears and said la 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 to drown out the bad news. They've opened their eyes. They've subjected themselves to reality and acknowledged it. I have so much respect for yes-sayers, because think about what they've had to go through to get to that place of bravery. We humans, we look at something ugly and we want to look away. And in turning our heads the other way, we see ourselves being cowardly and dishonest. And at that moment, we have a choice, even though it's not actually a real choice, but we treat it as one, and that is to change reality or change ourselves. The latter is much more difficult. But how does one change reality? Well, we don't. But we pull the wool over our eyes and create a different narrative than what's true. This is what Bob and I have referred to for years as mental gymnastics. And when people latch on to a false narrative, they look for others who believe the same thing. They look for news, books, movies, podcasts that confirm that bias. They find strength and safety in numbers. And the more people that believe it, the better they feel about themselves. The more secure they feel in the narrative. And time passes and their numbers grow, and they continue to listen only to people who agree with them week in, week out for years, even decades, until they've compartmentalized what they know is true. And that is that they're lying to themselves. I believe this practice trains the brain to do this with all inconvenient truths. I think it's what made a candidate like Trump a possibility. I'll always be in awe that a candidate said the things he said and still got elected. But this mental pathology may be why Oxford Dictionary's 2016 word of the year is post-truth. Post-truth is defined as relating to or denoting circumstances in which objective facts are less influential in shaping public opinion than appeals to emotion and personal belief. Our guest today, Colleen, described the tension she felt as she was contemplating leaving her faith as, quote, getting out of integrity with myself, unquote. I love this. This is a great way of wording what's happening. We want to be people of integrity, but integrity is defined as adherence to moral and ethical principles, soundness of moral character, and honesty. As much as I aspire to be a yes-sayer, when I hear the climate change facts and all the doomsday stuff coming out of honest researchers, I find myself unable to handle it. I have 4 kids, and Mindy and I have dreamed for years of playing with our grandchildren. But when I hear the likes of Michael Dowd and all the other scientists and authors he quotes, it can be daunting, scary, and intimidating. Much like hearing Hitchens or Dawkins or Spong when I was still a Christian. I was not ready to hear that. And so what did I do? I resorted back to that which gave me comfort. Let's just call it what it is, an opiate. The Christian narrative serves as an escape from the terror of mortality, the overall meaninglessness of life, and the apparent chaos of the universe. Karl Marx famously described this tension, and in this quote, every one of these 4 sentences are worthy of serious contemplation. He said, quote, religious distress is at the same time the expression of real distress and the protest against real distress. Religion is the sigh of the oppressed culture, the heart of the heartless world, just as it is the spirit of a spiritless situation. It is the opium of the people. The abolition of religion as the illusory happiness of the people is required for their real happiness, unquote. What Marx implies in the quote is that the world is in fact heartless, and our situation is spiritless, and religion is humanity's attempt to give it a heart and a spirit. He prescribes abolishing it, and I think we could say all illusory happiness, in order to find real happiness. But what is real happiness? Won't it look different for each person? I agree with the adage that ignorance is bliss, and to some extent, bliss is only afforded to the ignorant. If you are a seer, one who actually is aware of the atrocities, cruelties, injustices, and absurdities of life, and have not compartmentalized those facts so deeply that it is out of your awareness, out of sight, out of mind, then you carry a melancholy that is unshakable. If real happiness is the opposite of illusory happiness, then that means it is an honest, sober, conscious happiness mixed in with sentient pain, disgust, and dread of the harsh reality in which we find ourselves. And how now shall we live? This was one of the hardest aspects of my deconstruction. I would say that I took my time, but that credits me with much more volition than I exercised. The truth is, I went slow because every step was terrifying and painful. What is obvious in today's religious and political climate is that the more we delude ourselves and grow immune to facts in this post-truth era, the more we act on those beliefs and legislate on those beliefs. We've all seen senators and congressmen infer, in the face of doomsday facts, God wouldn't let that happen. And if he does, it's because he always intended to bring an end to this life so we could get on with eternity in heaven. We know that there are huge portions of the American population that have dismissed human responsibility for acting conscientiously because fighting climate change might be fighting God. Or worse yet, some gleefully anticipate the end of the world. You see, we as a people have done what our guest Colleen says. We've gotten out of integrity with ourselves. But now that we have, and we've buried our head in the sand, and we've lived with an apocalyptic, myopic worldview that the end is near and that it's okay or inevitable, and continue to burn fossil fuels and do damage to the ecosystem, and according to many, we are past the point of no return, I'm faced with a reality that I too want to ignore. And I recognize the temptation to look away. So the species is pretty fucked. We might have a few hundred years before humans are an endangered species or extinct even. So what do I do with that information in 2017? I don't know. But I respect my friends who are involved in lobbying, legislators educating themselves on bills, on politicians' stances on important subjects. They're acting on their convictions, not denying those realities. And I'm not there. I'm more prone to dance on the deck of the Titanic. We've all heard songs about living as if you're dying, but it's not just those who've been diagnosed with terminal cancer or even those getting honest about climate change. It's everyone. Everyone's dying. So YOLO and live like you're dying are maxims for us all. We all get to decide what that looks like for us because it's true for us all. Let me insert some comic relief from Louis C.K. right here on this subject.
Life is okay. I like life. I like it. I don't need it. I'd be fine without it. I like life, though. I do. You know how much I like life? I have never killed myself. That's how much I like it. That's exactly how much I like it, with a razor-thin margin. I like it precisely enough to not kill myself. It's an option, though. It's totally an option. I've thought of killing myself just to win an argument. But you should be able to talk about it. The whole world is just made of people who didn't kill themselves today. That's who's here. Is all of us that went, okay, I'll fucking keep doing it. Because it's an interesting thing about life. Life can get very difficult, very sad, very upsetting, but you don't have to do it. You really don't have to do it. You don't have to do anything. You never have to do anything because you can kill yourself. If they send you a letter from motor vehicles, you have to come in and, no, I don't, I'll kill myself. You can do that. You can do that once. But you can do it. And it's interesting because even when life gets bad, people generally choose it over nothing. Even the worst versions of life, even a shitty, shitty life is worth living, apparently. Because folks are living the fuck out of them.
I recently posted an Ernest Becker quote on Facebook. He's the author of the book Denial of Death, which I highly recommend, and the follow-up book by Sheldon Solomon called Worm at the Core. Becker called opiates that take our mind off death cultures. This includes religion, of course, but it would be something as benign as bridge club or bunco parties or having babies or working out or creating art. All things that either remain after you die and thus give your life significance and some sense of immortality, or elevate you above lower species who can't play bridge or bunco. Our awareness of death makes us deeply insecure, and we grab on to identifiers to keep terror at bay. This insecurity makes me want to elevate whatever I am to the best thing to be. If I'm white, whites are the best. If I'm American, America's the greatest. I might try to align myself with winners to alleviate my fear of insignificance. Have you ever seen this? So even though a person never attended college anywhere, They've got Alabama football apparel and bumper stickers, so everyone who encounters them thinks they're cool or superior simply by association with greatness. Check out episode 52 of this podcast to learn more about Becker's theories. Anyway, here's the Becker quote I posted on Facebook. Quote, "The real world is simply too terrible to admit. It tells man that he is a small, trembling animal who will someday decay and die. Culture changes all of this. Makes men seem important, vital to the universe, immortal in some ways." Unquote. Facebook friend Lauren Martin Day responded with this, quote, "I like to think that while we are admittedly small and insignificant to the universe at large, we can simultaneously be larger than life and of infinite value and import to the handful of people within our own little orbit. If leaving behind my Christian faith did anything, it made me infinitely more intent upon infusing my life's moments and the lives of those around me with as much meaning and love as I can possibly generate. This reorientation of believing in life before death has given me so much more impetus and urgency to make meaning and perpetuate love in the here and now." Unquote. To which I replied, "Yep, and that's being meaning-making in the most honest and least delusional way possible. Meaning-making, in and of itself, is not a vice. Lying to oneself is." Unquote. All humans are prone to place meaning where there is none, and life's too hard and too short to overanalyze the paradigms you've erected through which to see the world that make you happy. We certainly can overdo it, but applying a little pixie magic to how you see yourself, your partner, your children, your circumstances can go a long way to put a much-needed smile on your face and bounce in your step. Find a culture, an opiate, that counters the downers like climate change in Syria, Trump, your floundering finances, your elusive dream career, your lack of the education you want, your frustration with a physical impairment that you live with, etc. Just do it. Give yourself the meaning that lifts you out of darkness. Those around you will thank you. If you listen to the podcast S-Town, you learned that John B. McLemore was a genius, and that his acute awareness of all global atrocities, injustices, and tragedies kept him in a cycle of depression. Yes, if ignorance is bliss, then knowledge is sorrow and misery. Seers, global thinkers, news junkies, educated people have a unique challenge to get happy and stay happy, and it's never perfect, never sustainable, never static, always in flux, in waves of momentary joy and sorrow. The mixing of hot and cold air is what produces tornadoes, and there's a tornado going on in the mind and emotions of us all. But what is real happiness? What does it look like for you? How do you say yes to what is when what is ugly? How do you amor fati, love your fate, when it sucks? You've heard all the prescriptions. List 5 things you're grateful for. Well, here's mine, right off the top of my head. 1, daily access to a hot shower. 2, wonderful people in my life who do their best to love me and say yes to what is Cass. Number 3, this podcast. Number 4, that I have all 4 of my limbs. And number 5, that I'm conscious at all. Yes, all of it, the good, the bad, the beautiful, and the ugly, the profane. Death will be the ultimate blissful ignorance in which we all end, which makes consciousness, however difficult, a worthy task, and we should be proud of ourselves for staying in it day in and day out. I'll end this lengthy monologue with a quote from Tracy McMillan, who wrote and did a TED Talk about marrying herself. Quote, "I feel that as long as you're honest, you have the opportunity to grow. It's when you shut down, go into denial, and try to start hiding things from yourself and others. That's when you lock in certain behaviors and attitudes that keep you stuck." Unquote. We taped this conversation on March 25th, 2017. We interview people you don't know about a subject no one wants to talk about. We hope to encourage people in the process of deconstructing their faith and help curb the loneliness that accompanies it. We think the world is a better place when more people live by sight, not by faith. Please subscribe to our podcast and leave a review wherever you listen to podcasts. Also, you can support us monetarily in 2 easy ways. You can pledge $1 per episode or more through Patreon. That's patreon.com/EA podcast. Or leave a lump sum donation through PayPal at our website, everyone'sagnostic.com. The smallest contribution is greatly appreciated. Our opening monologue is an excerpt from a YouTube by Hank Green titled Towering Mountain of Ignorance. The music behind it is Never Know by Jack Johnson. The segue music on this episode was created by the Barry Orchestra, found at barryorchestra.bandcamp.com. And lastly, ReasonCon in Hickory, North Carolina is coming up this weekend, April 21st. More information is available at reasonnc.com. I will be there with lots of listeners and former guests of this podcast. If you're planning on going, I'd love to meet you. Thanks for listening, and be a yes-sayer to what is.
Hello.
Hello, Colleen. It's Bob and Cass.
Hi, Bob.
Hey,
Hi,
Colleen.
Cass.
Yeah.
So thanks for coming on, Colleen. You're in Southern California.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Where in SoCal are you?
It's a city near Los Angeles.
Okay. We have a lot of friends out in L.A.
Movie industry stuff?
Yeah, writers and actors and stuff. Yeah, friends, just hi, how are you kind of friends.
How often do you go to L.A., Colleen?
Every day. I mean, I have clients in LA, so I could walk there really quickly now. So
Wow. Clients in L.A. So you are,
Well, what kind of clients?
yeah.
I take care of people's animals.
Oh, awesome. Cats and dogs and those kind of things? Or they got some pretty
Yeah.
strange animals in L.A., though.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
I leave it to, dogs, cats, things like that.
Yeah, not
hamsters
iguanas.
and stuff.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
Large
Yeah, no
snakes.
spiders. Yeah.
So I'm curious. My daughter does some dog sitting,
Yeah.
and what do you get per hour? I mean, how do you charge out there?
It depends on the area. Most of my clients, it's $20 to $30. But that's
A
closer
day.
to the hour. No, the hour.
The hour, yeah, baby. Go for it, man. $30 an hour. That's a pretty
$30
good
an
deal.
hour?
Well, if you're going to have a dog sitter.
So
they're in LA.
If you're doing a long-term thing, like they're gone for 6 weeks, she did that one time.
Oh, okay.
$20 a day.
Okay, so then
you
we're
give 'em a
back to a
break.
daily thing with it
Yeah.
when it's
Yeah.
a long-term thing like that.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
that's
that's different.
awesome.
Do you ever have to house sit?
Occasionally.
Yeah.
Add a few bucks.
Are you married?
No, but I have a committed partner. He and I have been together for 5 years.
Cool.
Oh, excellent. Excellent.
How did we meet? Just on Facebook?
Yeah, I messaged you guys' page and was just like what you do. And I told you about myself. That's all.
Yeah, and you're the the hotline coordinator for recovering from religion.
The resources coordinator. yes.
Resources. Okay.
Yeah.
But does it have anything to do with the calls?
I'm an agent as well, but
You take calls?
I do. Mainly I do chat because my house is so busy usually that I can't do calls.
Okay.
But yeah.
So people, when you say chat, they type,
Texting.
They text. They call in or type in and talk to you about stuff, and then you type back.
Yep.
Pretty much.
Good, Bob.
Thank you. I'm like this Captain Obvious here. Thank you.
Yeah. I find the resources, we have over 200 resources, and we also have resources for people who are still religious, because that's something that we have a big passion for, is to help people who are dealing with issues that relate to religion and they're still religious, and we want to be there for those people too. So we have a lot of those sort of resources too.
Huh. What does that mean, resources? You don't mean money resources, do you? Or do you?
No. It would be like organizations or articles or YouTube or podcasts.
Yeah.
Our friend Bob Barnes in Canada, he takes calls for recovering
Oh,
from
does
religion.
he?
Do you know
that.
Bob Barnes? Do you know the people that take calls, Colleen?
Yeah. I haven't gotten to know Bob, but I know of him.
Yeah.
Oh, how about that?
What about Gail? Have you met Gail Jordan?
Oh yeah. I've worked closely with Gail.
In
She's
person?
terrific.
Yeah, she's really great.
She is. She's the best. Absolutely.
So has she come out to California, or did you come to Tennessee?
No, I've only talked to her online.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
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 She's super.
She's right here in our little town of Murfreesboro.
I tried, buddy.
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
In fact, we just had NanoCon. I keep interrupting you,
That's
Bob.
all right.
I'm
No,
sorry.
that's fine.
But we just had NanoCon, which is the Nashville Nuns Convention last weekend, and she's a big part of that.
Yeah.
And the night before the convention, she had a bonfire at her house. She started the Murfreesboro Free Thinkers meetup. It's 1,000 people strong.
No kidding. God bless her.
Wow.
So to speak.
And so we had a little bonfire, and Matt Dillahunty was there.
Wow.
And
That's a big name.
it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Great.
So, Colleen, so when you say resources, it's like, say somebody that's Catholic calls in, you have Catholic resources. And if somebody is a Methodist, or if somebody's a Baptist or something, is that right?
Or they're scared of hell.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's things like that. We do have resources about hell. Most of the time, if someone's a doubting believer, we kind of are careful about how which resources we share, because we don't want to guide people in one way or the other.
You're not in
It's
the
up to-
mission of destroying their faith.
Yeah,
right.
Right. I get that. Boy, there's a tightrope, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so usually in cases like that, if someone is still a believer, we would just be like, how are you handling these emotions right now? And so it's like, do you have a therapist?
Yeah.
And
Wow.
so looking at it from that perspective. But if someone is like, they say they're an atheist, and they're still afraid of hell, it'd be like, hey, here's this video, check it out. Here's the history of hell. So it depends on whoever we're talking to.
Isn't that so? There are atheists that still
heck
believe
yeah.
in hell?
Well, not believe,
Yeah.
but are haunted by it.
Haunted.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Man, what a nuance. Who knew? I mean, I don't know.
Well, and if it's stuck in your head as a child, it's there.
Yeah.
It's
Wow.
an impressionable
Isn't
thing.
that
It's hard to shake for some. I moved right on. I never believed really in hell. Even as a Christian, I just kind of thought, that's bullshit.
Well, when I was a Christian, I was a Seventh-day Adventist, and Adventists believe in like the annihilistic, like when hell happens, it's like basically once it's burnt up, everything's burnt up, hell is over.
Yeah.
So like it wasn't as scary for me, I think, as it might be for other people.
Yeah.
I had no idea that's how the Seventh-day Adventists think. Is that right?
I had a similar thing that I adopted personally, because there is that thing. Well, even John 3:16, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth him shall not die, but live forever, which implies that if you don't believe in him, then you do die and you don't live forever.
Okay.
So the soul is not immortal unless it's regenerated by the blood of Jesus.
Okay. Huh.
That's the way I
That's the kind
believed
of way
it.
you read it. Yeah, I get
It was
that.
it was annihilationism for unbelievers.
But the idea that God or whoever runs out of fuel, there's no fuel left for hell. So I wonder if it's a clean heat. Are they burning propane
or coal? Well, it's hellfire, brimstone, and sulfur. There's like references of sulfur somewhere.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
not sure.
pretty stinky.
Anyway,
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, speaking
Well,
of
anyway.
Colleen's history as a Seventh-day Adventist, let's go back to your childhood religion and your progression in the context of your faith.
Well, I had a kind of a different background for being an Adventist. My parents became Adventists when I was a baby, and my dad and my mom separated, and I didn't go to church anymore up until maybe I was like 6 or 7. So I was a baby. They separated, and then so my dad would bring my brother and I to church on weekends when we would visit him, and we would go to church on Sabbath, on Saturday, and then we'd also go to church on Sunday. So I had
At a different church?
as Adventists would call it, a Sunday church. So like, Christian Reformed or something like that.
Yeah.
Church. And so I had quite the
Double dose every weekend.
Yeah, and I saw different versions of Christianity. Also, my mom sent my brother and I to Christian school, and so we had that too.
Yeah.
And those were Christian Reformed. It was a Christian Reformed school.
Yeah. What years would that be? Like what school years?
It was 2nd through 8th.
Okay. That's a long time.
That's enough to pound it in.
And
your
in
head.
Christian schools, part of the curriculum is Bible class.
There was Bible class, but there was also like in elementary, it was also worship during like the whole school a couple of times a week, at least once a week.
Chapel.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what happened for you and when, as far as when you began? Oh, there's in your bio, you were, I think most of us, when we embraced Christianity, is we wanted to help people and love people and be in community. And so we get love bombed by the positive side of the humanistic side of Christianity. And so I know that in your bio, you got in because you wanted to help people and you were moved by missionaries that visited the church. Is that right?
Oh, yeah, I forgot that story. Yeah, my grandma, I had to have been 4 or 5 and went to church with her, like a quote-unquote Sunday church. And the pastor was praying over some missionaries that were going overseas. And he's like, if anyone wants to come up forward and pray over these people, come forward now. And my grandma told me, I asked her, can I go up? And so I went up there and I prayed over them. And so I guess for a long time, I thought that was like my calling sort of a thing. Like it was a tug at my heart. But then looking back, I can see now it's more like, I want to help this person.
Oh, I see. When you say pray over them, how does that work? What do you...
You stand around most people, you stand around them. Some people put hands on them.
The closest people to them would lay hands on them, and everybody else would lay hands on them. And so it's almost like this huddle.
Yeah, sort of like a giant, like you're having like electricity or something going through you, or something. I guess.
Yeah.
I would say. Okay.
It's definitely emotional. I mean, touching people is emotional, with or without God.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And then when you're sending these people off, it's a commissioning, it's a sending out, and we are your home church, or we are one of the churches that's supporting you financially and spiritually.
Yeah.
And we're sending you out, and there would be tears. I mean, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you ended up being a missionary in South Korea. Where was it?
South Korea, yeah. I had actually done a year in Ukraine teaching English, and I liked it.
And how old were you then in Ukraine?
20-something. I can't remember now. It was kind of mid-grad school. I was in my university for a long time. Yeah. But I wasn't sure on what I wanted to do career-wise, because pastoral, I was looking into being a pastor and then a counselor, and finally I went overseas for a year and was like, this is a good fit. But because of all my student loans, really my only option was to go to South Korea, because I would actually get paid there. Thing is, I don't think I did very good, like in terms of mission. I've never been the type who enjoys trying to convince people of something that I believe. I get so nervous and anxious that it's just, I used to just call what I did friendship evangelism. And so if they were drawn by how I was being, maybe they would like ask. Nobody ever asked, but
they would say, well, you seem to be a nice person. What do you believe, or something like that? Yeah.
Yeah, but it never happened.
Oh, that's a problem then, isn't it?
You must not have been a very nice Christian.
Oh, I bet she was. Yeah.
I'm kidding.
Yeah, of course.
So you went to a Seventh-day Adventist college?
Yeah, university in Michigan, Andrews University.
Is that where you're from?
I'm from Michigan, yeah.
Hey, how about that? Michigan, yeah. Very good. I'm from Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Woo.
Wisconsin.
Yeah. Wisconsin. How you doing there? Yeah, hey.
I don't like to say time-sensitive things, but the Badgers lost last night by 1 point.
I didn't know that.
Florida beat them.
That's right, the Sweet 16.
Sweet 16.
Oh, well. So grad school, what did you study?
I started out in the Masters of Divinity program.
Okay.
But ended up with the religious education master's.
Cool. Mm-hmm. So there you go. So off to Ukraine, and then eventually South Korea?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay, and same thing, you taught English, or did you do something else there? Yeah,
taught ESL, yep.
Yeah, English second language. Yeah, gotcha.
And it was there that you began to doubt your faith or something.
Yeah, part of it there was things that jumped in throughout undergrad and grad school. One thing that jumps to mind for me was I remember asking about how are we going to help people when we go out and do like evangelism in a city. And one of my professors was like, well, that's what the other churches are for. Our focus is on the three angels message. So we have to do that work.
What is the three angels message?
You saw my face. Yeah, tell me about this. This is great.
I've never heard this.
I want to hear. Yeah, go ahead.
It's been a little while. I can't remember what all three of them are, but it's from the book of Revelation, and it's basically teaching about the messages to the planet that will basically save the planet. The Adventists have a real big thing about prophecy. and mainly from Ellen White. So Adventists have a goal, and the goal is to tell the world about God and the message that God gave the Seventh-day Adventist Church. So my professor is just like, that's not something we need to deal with. There's other people that can deal with that.
The evangelical stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right,
and so that was like one red flag for me. There was also some cognitive dissonance for me when I was in a science class in college, and it was like I actually like went out after the teacher about like something to do with evolution, and if I had really looked at myself, I would have been like, something is going against what you thought is true, you know?
Yeah,
right.
But honestly, I don't think there was one specific thing. There's little things throughout all of that. You know, I wasn't really happy with the circumstances of my job in context to the goals that I wanted, like to helping the message go out throughout the world. So like being a woman, being unique in terms of being Colleen, because I have my own uniqueness that I bring to this planet, like
your
all of
Colleenness.
us. My Colleenness. And so it just felt like, you know, I didn't have a place, and leaving university was like a major culture shock, even if I'd stayed in the United States. So there was like a lot of upheaval. A lot of people felt that when I left the church, I was doing it because I was angry at God.
Yeah.
My mom was really sick, and she died not like a few months after my name was removed from the books. And I remember the pastor of the church, which was one of the major churches in the Seventh-day Adventist Church, he sent me an email, and he actually, it was funny because it's like whoever was talking to him about me, they kind of trivialized who I am and like made it seem like I was only angry. But I feel that the reason why I truly left the Adventist Church was I felt like I was out of integrity with myself by still being in the church, because I didn't believe many of the doctrines when I left the church. And I just for myself, I couldn't be right with myself and still have my name in the books.
Wow.
I love this phrase, out of integrity with myself.
Yeah, that's great.
That's totally how
brilliant.
I feel
Yeah.
about why I left. Is that I wanted to be more loving. I wanted to be more honest. I wanted to be truer to science. I wanted to be, I mean, these are issues of integrity that you feel that you're not being true to your own convictions within your own faith.
Yeah,
that's
very true.
I love that.
When you say, Colleen, when you say, my name was removed from the books, what does that mean? Does your name just kicked off the list or something?
She asked to be removed, I think, if I remember.
Oh, okay. What does that mean? What does that mean?
Well, within the Adventist Church, if you want your name removed, you send a letter to the
It's
church.
membership in the church.
It's just
that's all that is.
That's all.
I thought it was some Mormon-y kind of weird thing. I don't know. I didn't understand.
Any church with membership has that kind of thing.
All right. So
most churches do.
All right, I get you.
But you're there in South Korea. How many years did you serve there?
Just over a year. The first time I went, it was like right after each other. 4 months with the Seventh-day Adventist Church schools there, and then went back and was teaching for the public schools. But I was still considering myself doing mission work at the time too.
Okay, so part of your time you were associated with the church. You wrote them and said, "Take me off the list," but you continued to do the work. Just not.
No, I'd actually left the church after I came back from South Korea.
Okay. Well, that makes sense. There's integrity. That's good.
While you're there in South Korea, are you in community with other Americans or other missionaries?
Yeah, especially when I was working with the church school. But like on weekends, that would pretty much the only time I was around other Americans was when I would go to church.
Well, could you help me just, again, I'm interested in stuff like this. The Seventh-day Adventist. Now, I know that the Adventists go back to like the Millerites, right? Back a long time ago, whatever his name was, something Joe Millerite or so Joe Miller or whoever
William Miller.
William Miller. Yeah, and he's the
Bill
guy.
Miller.
Yes, right. And he said the earth will end, or the end is coming, and then it didn't come, and then he said, I made a mistake. It's coming next year, and then it didn't come, and then there was the great disappointment. Then eventually it turned. How did it turn into the Seventh-day Adventists?
I know that somebody played around with it. It was like, this Jesus didn't come. He went into the heavenly sanctuary and is doing his work there. Somebody had a vision or something about the Sabbath, and that's how it kind of came into the church itself. But it was basically pretty soon after the Great Disappointment happened. I don't know if there was... I just know that there was a group of people that were connected with Miller himself, that they were the ones that formed it. It wasn't anything like...
It wasn't a hostile takeover or anything.
It wasn't a hostile nothing fantastic.
Yeah, no, I get it. Weird, though. Well, I mean, after all, Miller had a bunch of people, and it's always struck me weird that, he said, the Great Disappointment. The Great Disappointment, that everything didn't end. Wasn't a disappointment to me, but to them it was a disappointment. And then the Seventh-day Adventists come along, and Seventh Day meaning what, like Saturday? Right?
Yeah, Friday sundown to Saturday sundown.
Okay, so it's not Sunday, Sabbath. And Adventist is meaning coming, the coming of the next time, the next thing.
So I Googled the three angels message. It's an interpretation of the message given by three angels in Revelation 14. Mm-hmm. The Seventh-day Adventist Church teaches that these messages are given to prepare the world for the second coming of Jesus Christ and sees them as a central part of its own mission. So... We don't read scripture on this show very often. Yeah, but I'm going to.
A little scripture, folks. All right.
Yeah. So this is is the section referring to the three angels. Then I saw another angel flying in midair, and he had the eternal gospel to proclaim to those who live on the earth, to every nation, tribe, language, and people. Mm-hmm. He said in a loud voice, quote, "Fear God and give him glory, because the hour of his judgment has come. Worship him who made the heavens, the earth, the sea, and the springs of water," unquote. Mm-hmm. A second angel followed and said, "Fallen, fallen is Babylon, the great, which made all the nations drink the maddening wine of her adulteries," unquote. Yes.
Rome.
A third angel followed them and said in a loud voice, quote, "If anyone worships the beast and its image and receives its mark on their forehead
666.
Or on their hand, they too will drink the wine of God's fury, which has been poured full length into the cup of his wrath. They will be tormented with burning sulfur." Oh. There's the sulfur.
Yeah.
"And in the presence of the holy angels." Wait, the holy angels are in the sulfur?
No, they were watching the presence of them. Yeah, okay.
Well, they will be tormented with burning sulfur in the presence of the holy angels and of the Lamb, capital L, that's Jesus.
Right.
"And the smoke of their torment will rise forever and ever. There will be no rest, day or night, for those who worship the beast and its image, or for anyone who receives the mark of its name," unquote. This calls for patient endurance on the part of the people of God who keep his commands and remain faithful to Jesus.
Wow.
And that mark of the beast, do you want to know what the mark of the beast is?
Yeah. It isn't 666 or anything?
No, it's worshiping on Sunday, not on Sabbath.
What? Ooh. Worshiping on Sunday is the... Oh, that's great. All those Baptists.
All those everyone else,
that's right.
Really.
The thing is, a lot of Adventists will often, the non-conservative type, would push that aside and not make that as big of a deal. It's more progressive Adventist, if you want to call it that. We did evangelism in my hometown, and we were going door to door, just inviting people. And then we saw someone from my church, and they were like, we saw these books. And the books were one of these famous Adventist books about the Sunday law. And so as we were putting little flyers on the doors, we would take the book. So we had like a trunk full of these books that someone else in our church had handed out in the neighborhood around where the evangelism was going to be taking place.
And they're taking the books because they don't want people to know about the Sunday thing?
Yeah, because they wanted people to hear the full message and not just,
because if somebody saw that, they think this would be nutty.
and usually when evangelism happens, Adventists don't say that they're Seventh-day Adventists at the beginning. I mean, unless it's happening in an Adventist church. But if they do evangelism in a city at like a auditorium somewhere or something, they kind of keep it under wraps. I remember someone that I knew when I was a kid, they ended up coming to the meetings, and my mom and I saw them. My mom, she was baptized because of the meetings that I did that summer. But we saw that person that we knew, and they asked me, and I was honest with them. And then later, I'd spoken to the other people from my team, and they're like, you shouldn't have told them. And I'm like, I'm not going to lie to someone if someone outright asks me.
So the embarrassing thing for you and for some progressive Seventh-day Adventists, SDAs, is the whole emphasis on Sunday being the mark of the beast, or being this great evil.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and like the whole idea that being saved by works.
Yeah.
And how worshiping on Sabbath and having to keep the Sabbath, and also being saved by grace through Jesus. Mm-hmm. There's like this weird, like, how do you balance that?
Yeah, that's a tension.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, and that's a forever tension in Christianity, and all facets of Christianity is are you saved by grace through faith, not by works, but by faith, Right. And then there's these works, Paul goes to great lengths to denounce circumcision, as far as being, that's part of the old covenant. The new is faith.
Yeah.
And just faith believing alone.
Right. Faith alone will save you.
Yeah. That becomes a huge chasm, or
Yeah. So the focus
schism, I should say. That's what I meant to say.
The focus goes away from doing good things and more about yourself. More about kissing up to God and hoping that he graces you.
Which many took as license to sin, which Paul even addresses in that same passage. It's a mess. Yeah. But I'm so I was still kind of thinking about that passage that I read when you started telling the story about door to door. So if I could get some clarity, you were following along behind other SDAs and taking this document off the doorpost or off the door.
Yep.
Okay. So in a way, it was a house divided.
Totally.
Yeah. Okay.
Wow. Isn't that something?
Well, I'm intrigued by this notion at the end of this passage. It says, remain faithful to Jesus. And I was thinking about that this week, in that one of the things that is very compelling, I think, to the human heart is this loyalty thing. Mm-hmm. And that, like, even when bad shit is happening, like, my father died of cancer when I was 17, and I was really pissed because we laid hands on him, we anointed him with oil, we went through every hoop. I think, I'm not mistaken, it's 35 years ago, but I think that my mom, or maybe some other people, took him to a Benny Hinn show.
Wow.
Benny Hinn, the guy that
healer,
hits you,
televangelist.
Yeah, the televangelist.
If not, at least there was that we tried everything. Mm-hmm. He had colon cancer kind of type thing, complications of it, and sure enough, he died. And so there was this temptation to say fuck you and fuck this and and walk away. And yet there was this pride almost that I took in saying, like what Job said, though he smite me, or, though, something about I'll remain faithful. God kills, or, he allows Satan to kill his entire family, all this takes everything away from him.
Yeah, Job, yeah.
And yet he was like, I will remain faithful. Right. And that's this passage at the end here, this last verse says, this calls for patience and endurance on the part of God's people, who keep his commands and remain faithful. This is something that tethers people to faith. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I'm just throwing it out there that I think it's one of the compelling things that, like, you atheists or you ex-Christians, you gave up on God. You lost faith. You're disloyal. Mm-hmm. In fact, I was talking to somebody a couple weeks ago, and I told them that I'm an ex-Christian, former evangelical preacher, and I'm now an atheist. And they were like, "Oh, I'm very Christian. God's been good to me." That's literally the first thing out of her mouth.
Really?
God's been good to me.
Meaning that he hasn't been too good to you, so you rejected him in some way.
Well, or that I'm going to be good to him back, just that loyalty thing, that allegiance. I don't know. I'm just talking about.
It's just weird.
The dynamics of this stuff is complicated, and I know that the phone calls that you take and stuff are confidential, and so we certainly wouldn't want to do or say anything to breach that. But the people that call in, I mean, I'm sure there's a gamut of emotions, people that are really at their rope's end, or people that just want to chat, or lonely. I know that loneliness, a lot of times in remote areas, the people are, I mean, how many of, what percentage of the people that you talk to are in the closet, or don't know anybody, or are afraid to tell their parents, or?
A lot of them are. Like, one chatter caller person comes to mind, and I remember he had someone that he could reach out to, but he was afraid to. And it's just amazing how that fear of whatever sort of rejection or whatever keeps us from finding what we need to help us through certain moments. So I find that some of the times with some callers or chatters, that's often what it is that fear of reaching out and asking for help.
Yeah.
You call them chatters.
Well, she's chatting with them as opposed to callers.
Oh, I see what you mean. Or
Yeah.
chatters. Yeah. Do you can you tell if there are lots more young people, a lot more older people, or is it just the gamut?
It's kind of the gamut, but there's some consistent younger people that call and connect with us, and so it's all throughout there, but we do have a good body of young people too that connect with us.
I would say that the young people have less options. I mean, they're in their house, they're under the roof, they're in the household, and the household is a faith family.
Right.
They are losing their faith or have already lost it, and yet an adult
can't talk about it.
An adult can find community or talk to people. I feel like the feeling of feeling trapped, it would be more likely with kids still under the the caregiving of their family.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there, we have a couple of resources that I really like. There's one video called Coming Out from a YouTube channel called Theremin. I believe that's
I love Theremin
how
trees.
It is. Theremin trees, and love that video. There's also one from Hemant Mehta about coming out and just, I think it's called like how to make an atheist or something like that quickly. But it's basically one of the biggest messages is like, you got to be careful. If you're coming out, you get to really look at, are your needs not going to be met if you were to come out in this situation? Yeah. So we really do. We help people make plans on what they're going to do. And if part of the plan is not to come out, but the plan would be to find other ways to take care of those needs, in terms of being an atheist in the closet sort of a thing, dealing with whatever those emotions are.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a good idea.
Colleen, have you ever heard of Purple Fox and his video series?
No.
Yeah, he's out there on YouTube, and it's older stuff as far as he put it out several years ago. We had him on the show a couple of years ago, but I loved his series. I related to it a lot. He got pulled into Young Life in high school, and there are some very, very dynamic ministries out there. And you mentioned earlier, you called it friendship evangelism, and I think one way that the church is really utilizing a tool or a method that they're using now is kind of putting the order in which people get involved, and that is belief first and then you belong, or belong first and eventually you believe. And whereas maybe in the past churches would kind of use the belief, you walk the aisle and accept Jesus into your heart and now you belong with us. That almost was like the hoop you had to jump through to be in the community. I think, as far as evangelistic tools and methods, is that they're reversing that to where they're just friending you and love bombing you.
Right.
And you're getting to feel the community. Just this week,
they suck you in.
Again, I'm saying something time sensitive, but just this week, the episode for Mark Maron was Reza Aslan.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I got to watch that.
And listen. And Reza has a show now called Believing, I think, on I don't know what channel or anything, but he's basically a religion scholar.
Right.
He was born in Iran and came here. His dad hated Islam. That's why they left Iran. As just a teenage boy in a white school district and youth group, he accepted Jesus. And he was like, I love this story, you know. And then they started piling on things like, well, gays go to hell, and you can't have sex outside of marriage or whatever. And, you know, so again, he got love bombed in, and then the dogma starts piling on afterwards. I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud and rambling.
I hear you.
But this is these people that call recovering from religion, and I'm so glad that resources like this exist. How could people maybe that are listening to this episode, what's the 800 number? What's the chat? You know, how do they get a hold of you?
Touch? Yeah.
It's 1-844-368-2848, or you can also, if you remember it by words, 184 I doubt it. 184 I doubt it.
Huh.
And how do they text you?
The chatting is from the website, recoveringfromreligion.org, and that is, you just kind of scroll down to the hotline project section of the page, and you'll see when the next chat person is available.
And that's 24/7 coverage?
No, the chat is Saturday, Sunday, 8 to 10, 8 a.m. to 10 p.m., and then the call line is 4 p.m. to 10 p.m., and these are all Central Time.
Okay.
Well, let's get back to your personal story. How old are you?
I'm 38.
And so you get back from South Korea. You're not really considering yourself a Seventh-day Adventist anymore. And I noticed in your bio that you jumped into Unity Church.
Yeah, that was just like a very brief jump.
Yeah.
My whole journey there, I can, like, not with Unity, but just out of the church, I had doubts for many years, and it wasn't until 2010 that I started, like, really doubting Adventism enough that I chose to write the letter to leave. What really got me out of Christianity completely was actually reading a book by Bishop Spong, Bishop Shelby Spong.
John Shelby Spong, yeah.
His one about the Bible. And I didn't even finish it. And it was just like, what do you mean the Bible isn't inspired? And I'm reading about the history of how it was put together. And then I'm just like, I know this is probably really like not very like smart intellectual person of me, but it's like, if the Bible isn't real as it was told to me, and it has not written by God whatsoever, where's the basis for any of this?
Yeah. Why are we even reading it?
It threw out religion 100% for me.
Yeah. I think that's called Gentle Heresy.
That book?
Is that the name of the book?
I don't know. He's got one. He's got a dozen.
It's an older one.
Okay.
Yeah. But there's one he wrote specifically about the Bible. He's done a lot of great books, though.
Oh, sure, yeah.
He's a brilliant guy. Yeah.
Yeah, it was rescuing the Bible from fundamentalism.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's right.
It's funny that he would think of it as rescuing the Bible. And then,
well, because he wants you to see it in a whole different way. He wants you to see it as
in the only
metaphor.
The only way that it deserves being seen.
Yeah, right.
I mean, because it's not that we shouldn't read it or it's contraband. I mean, but let's read it like we would read Greek mythology or, you know, as we've said many times on this show, like Aesop's Fables or something, you know?
Yeah.
And we don't freak out when the talking fox, you know, can't reach the grapes, you know. We don't make a big deal out of the fact that foxes don't talk because we get it.
Yeah, right.
It's a story.
It's a different kind of story, right?
You know, the people that we've had on the show, the Christians that we still have in our lives that we find to be amicable people, are the people that read the Bible with a lot of generosity and literary understanding of that this is this is the creation of humans.
Yeah. At a
time in history.
At a time in history, you know, in the Bronze Age, where there wasn't a lot of understanding of anything except these stories, these myths that we tell each other.
Yeah. So what do you call yourself now? I mean, I know labels are a little bit touchy, but how do you identify?
Well, I'm a secular humanist.
Okay.
And, you know, I kind of agree with Bart Campolo, you know, why I identify myself as something that I'm not. So that's why I like to, I'm a secular humanist.
Okay.
So you make a full-time living with animals?
Ask about that. Yeah. So the animals is the money, right?
The gig?
Is the gig. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I get to create some more clients, but that's what I do for a living. You know, it's kind of hard to get a job as an atheist with a religious education degree. So,
Sure.
It's personally, you know, dealing with personal inside emotional stuff. I think it also hasn't helped me up until now to find a career. So once I found this passion of mine and was like, I can create this into a business, that's when things started to, like, I meshed with the career so much better than any other job I ever did before.
Yeah.
So
Well,
that's why
How long you been doing it?
officially for about like 3 years.
Yeah.
Oh, well, great.
Well, any small business, it takes 3 to 5 years to break even, or what, you know, or at least
Yeah.
you know, to get to where it's a flywheel metaphor. Like it's really heavy to push the first 3 to 5 years, but then it's
Yeah,
got
then it
so
gets-
much momentum you can jump on it and ride it.
Yeah, and I'm sure, you know, it's probably word of mouth. You don't go on television advertising this. So somebody says, oh, this lady's great. Hey, you should check out Colleen. She's
Yeah.
great. You know, and
Who
then-
do you use to watch your dog?
Yeah, exactly. So that's the way it kind of builds. Yeah. And so there's no money. You don't make any money from recovering from religion then, I guess. There's no
That's a volunteer thing.
volunteer. Yeah.
100% volunteer, yeah.
Yeah. But still, I mean, that's great. What other unusual stories have you heard that you could tell us? Something that maybe stunned you or something?
I think in a way they're all kind of similar.
Yeah.
And it's just like the human need to be understood, to fill the needs that they have, you know, and Maslow's hierarchy of needs and
There
all
you
of
go.
that.
Yeah,
So it's a lot of similar stories, even if there were something that were like an outlier, there was still that underlying similar story there.
Yeah, I get it.
Well, there is this place. I mean, you talk about Maslow's hierarchy. One of them is self-awareness. I mean, eventually, or self-acceptance and
Yeah, self-actualization.
Self-actualization. There it is.
Yeah.
But the God is the meaning of life. God is the source of life. God's what's holding all this together. God's the reason I exist. God is this. God is literally everything. And when you take that out,
The Jenga. Pieces
it's more than we
fall
talk
apart.
about that, but it's a vacuum. It's
Yeah.
a void the size of the universe for a person.
Yeah.
And so I know that I'm sure many of the callers are like, how now shall I live? What do I believe? I don't know what's up from down right now. I mean, there could be almost stages of grief, denial and anger and fear. And so having somebody to talk to like Colleen is a wonderful resource.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess there is that thing where, like Cass said, you know, like it's a vacuum. The air is sucked out of everything.
Yeah.
And fortunately,
It's depressing.
nature abhors a vacuum, so
Yeah.
something's got to fill that up.
Yeah.
And what is that going to be? And slowly the person pumps it back up.
Maybe with science. I
with
don't know.
science or with something else. I don't know.
Well, and it's finding your own meaning,
There
and
you
that's
go.
what we support people in trying to get to that place where it's coming from within, not outside of them.
So do you? You've had some counseling training and your MDiv and stuff. You feel like you're using some of that as far as you're not feeding them what to think, but you're guiding them into thinking for themselves, their own meaning.
Yeah, I don't think I necessarily am using any counseling background or anything like that.
Yeah.
I mean, we have training that we go through with recovering from religion and the Hotline Project. I mean, and so it's a lot of just hearing the person where they're at
Yeah.
and really bringing the answers from within them, because they ask questions and we can't answer questions for them.
No.
So really bringing a space where they can start being, self. What is the phrase you always say? Like personal agency.
Yeah.
Take a drink. Personal.
Yeah.
That's right. There are some key words.
Yeah, but
that
helping
come up.
them help, because this is you talk about one of the voids is that you haven't exercised thinking for oneself, critical thinking, or trusting one's feelings and thoughts. If you're gay, for example, and you tell an ex-Christian, hey, you like what you like, trust your feelings, that's absolutely brand new territory for them. They're like, what? I can trust my heart? The heart's deceitfully wicked and beyond cure. Who can know it? I shouldn't trust my own heart. I shouldn't trust my own gut.
What?
These are
These
things.
are the kind of things they tell you?
Well, of course, it's in the Bible.
Oh, Jesus. Come on. Please. But here's a little aside. I'm a retired guy now, and after many years of teaching. And, I like helping people, and I guess that's why I got into the teaching thing. But I was thinking, well, what can I do next? Maybe I could become, I'm not kidding you, I came up with this yesterday, a 911 operator. Because, I could, why are you looking at me like that? Because I can help people, like in very tough situations. But then I learned how hard it is to become a 911 operator. Well, you got to spend a lot of time learning, because you don't want to screw things up. This could be life and death.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm certainly in terms of, education, I'm overqualified, but it takes a while. Yeah. But then now I'm listening to Recovering from Religion, and I might be pretty good at this. How do you learn how to do it? How do you?
What do they look for in chatters and callers like yourself?
Yeah, maybe I could do something like this. I don't know.
Yeah, and there's training that people go through, so it's not like someone's going to just be thrown into a call or a chat without any sort of training that they're going to go through. Really helping the training, besides like the technical part, the training helps people really get at the questions and being like there with the caller. And when someone signs up to be a volunteer, they actually go and they ask them a bunch of questions that kind of filters out some of the people who might want to be on the hotline to do atheist proselytization. You know what I mean?
That's right.
Yeah, they filter you out, Bob.
Well, no. No, but I know that going in. I wouldn't be, you don't want to go, what? That's fucked up. What's wrong with you? You don't want to do. I get that.
Just give up God.
Yeah.
That's what
you want to be, kind, and you want to listen to them because they're going through something. I get that. But how do you learn that? That's the thing,
Yeah.
Well, there's training and it takes time. And if you're not going into it with the idea of fixing or doing anything besides being there for the person, I feel it comes naturally.
Yeah. Well, the pressure's off for you to fix the situation. Yeah. So in a way, it kind of makes it easier just to listen and maybe, I don't know, a lot of times you just feed back what you have heard them say, so they feel heard.
Yeah. Okay. Well, here, let me be the guy. Hello, Colleen, or hello, person, or whoever. Man, I don't know. Something's wrong with me. I just don't know what to do. I live in this house with my mom and dad, and they're just always with the religion and the God and all this, and I just have a feeling that there's nothing out there, but I don't know what to say or what to do. What should I do? I don't know what to do. What would you say?
Wow, it sounds like sounds kind of overwhelming.
Yeah.
How are you handling those emotions you're going through right now?
I just stay in my room and I try not to engage with them. I don't want to talk to them because whatever I do is wrong and everything is all Jesus and they're always watching me and I don't know. I don't know what I do. I smoke dope.
Okay. Sounds like you're finding some ways to deal with it. This feels weird.
But I'm sure you have people like that. So you sort of have to. You never want to say, "Oh, don't do that." What are you like? I'm drinking a fifth of scotch every day or something. Well, that sounds like I could eventually turn on you. You have to just sort of. Just let them talk. Just let them talk and go, I say, yeah, huh? Well, that's hard. Or, well, that sounds like a terrible.
Well, once building rapport with the person, I can easily just be like, have you dealt with, this avoidance that you're doing when you drink that fifth of that? Like, do you think that's something that's healthy for you? Is there another way for you to... Like, can you find another way that isn't destructive like that? Yeah,
I get you.
Well, self-soothing.
Yeah, you talked about that the other day.
Yeah, it's a big
self-soothing.
Deal.
Okay,
all right.
There are ways, there are techniques. I get it.
Mm-hmm.
So, what is the format of the training? Are you on a conference call with one person or 10 people, or do you have to go somewhere?
It's online, and there's
self-paced modules.
At this time, no, but the goal is to have it self-paced and Yeah, so you go through, I mean, besides the technical classes, you'd also go through the ones about how to deal with people in terms of like, reflective questions, open questions, things like that.
So there's some reading, and then they quiz you on the reading to make sure that you've read it.
Well, there is the training manual. And there's no specific quiz at this point. I know that when they have the self-paced one, there will be a test throughout it.
Do you know how many people are staffed with Recovering from Religion to take calls and chats?
It's under 50.
Okay.
Wow.
And how many calls per month or week, or what are your metrics?
It really depends, because I'm looking at our back end page right now, and I could say, oh, we're up this week by this percentage and down this one, but it all depends. So it could be between 30 calls or to 10 calls, but some weeks it'll be up. Yeah. No, it depends.
Yeah, sure.
It really depends. It goes up and down, and I think it kind of goes along with people are working, certain holidays and things like that.
Yeah, I would say Christmas time you probably get more calls.
Yeah, I was just going to are there spikes along the way, like around Christmas or like when Trump got elected or something,
I don't actually pay attention to that.
Okay,
I'm really not the one to really talk to about all of that.
No, I get it, but it would seem like it.
Yeah.
Like you said, Christmas would be a big one.
Always.
Or Easter or whatever. Yeah, sure.
So is it, I think there's a podcast that's associated with Recovering from Religion. Is that true?
Yes.
What's it called?
It's the Recovering from Religion podcast.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay,
well, and so what do? They interview people like we do, or?
Yeah, and usually each episode has a topic that they go through. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What are the names of the hosts?
It's Emily Karp and Scott Smith.
Okay. Cool. Well, I'll have to check that out. I don't think I've ever heard that podcast. So.
Yeah, sounds good.
And we'll put links to all these things as far as the hotline and the website, recoveringfromreligion.org, the podcast, and Colleen's personal cell phone.
Oh.
No.
Yes, just call me anytime.
Yeah, right. No, that won't happen. Yeah, but that sounds good. I remember I had a question for you. You said there's a Seventh-day Adventist, so that's on Saturday. You go to church on Saturday. Then there's a Sunday church. Now, is that part of the Seventh-day Adventist, or is it just a different denomination?
Different denomination. It's all the other denominations that worship on Sunday.
So you'd actually go to the Sunday church? Huh.
Yeah. I think my dad was trying to win theological arguments with people, so he would go into Sunday school, especially, and the adult Sunday school, and my brother and I would be in the kids' Sunday school. So, yeah.
Oh, so you went because your dad wanted to argue theology with somebody.
Yep.
That's funny. What an unusual thing. So you get to hang out in the Sunday church, which of course is the mark of the beast. So, which doesn't make any sense at all.
But you're going to hell.
Yeah, right. Exactly. All right.
I'm going to hell and heaven at the same time.
The same weekend. What's the chances of that? Yeah.
Well, I think they have proven that atoms can be two places at one time or something.
Yeah. So are you a particle or a wave? So there you go.
So let's get into your
both.
Yes, and.
Yeah.
I noticed in your bio that you're into Minecraft, right? The video game?
Yeah, my partner, his nephew, adores the game, and he downloaded it onto my tablet, and I started playing it, and so I've got worlds that are really elaborate, and it's a distraction.
Well, let's talk about distractions.
That's fun, though.
I think I need distractions. I don't know about you, Colleen, but I'm an overthinker, and I'm a global thinker, and part of my depression in December was related to Trump.
Really?
Oh, absolutely.
Huh.
Oh, yeah. I think about water, what we're doing to the planet, even the water.
Yeah.
Like a human necessity it's I feel like that our days are numbered as far as how we treat water, something like that.
Sure.
And that can depress me And then you take the combination of all of these things, like these Syrian babies.
Yeah.
Good grief, right? And if you carry that shit, you have to put a tourniquet on that in order for you not to just be in fetal position on the floor. So distractions, I do think these are ways of self-soothing.
Yeah.
And there's nothing, I mean.
But you're still paper and
I do crossword
puzzles and Sudoku
and Sudoku, or I can't say it, but I can do them.
Yeah.
But just for that brief time, I literally am consumed with finishing this puzzle because I kind of time myself.
Okay.
I'll tell you the other thing I do is I do spider solitaire like a fucking maniac. I know in the last 10 years, I wouldn't be surprised if I haven't done 500,000 games of spider solitaire.
No kidding. Well, maybe then you should get into some of these Minecraft or go catch Pokemon or whatever the hell they're called.
I'm pretty well full up on my distractions.
Okay, you're good there.
Because you can dump your life into distractions.
Oh boy.
So I do have to be present with my family or with my job.
Yeah, sure.
But anyway, I think Minecraft, you got into it as a way of connecting with your nephew or your, that's great.
I call him my nephew, yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
What else? Let's see. Sometimes we ask guests some peculiar questions, and then if they don't have an answer, we just edit it out. And so we'll throw some out here. Have you ever had like a horror story from a bad dating experience?
Yes.
Okay, bring it.
I was in grad school, and one of my classmates wanted to introduce me to someone who went to the church that he was a pastor at, and we decided to meet down in South Bend, Indiana, and I borrowed my friend's truck. And from the get-go, if there was the universe was trying to tell me something, my friend had been in a little accident in the truck, and we didn't know what it had done until I left town, and I'm turning the curve around to leave town. All of a sudden, arcs of sparks come flying out of the front of the truck.
Just by turning.
Just by turning.
Wow.
I pull over, turn the truck off. Come to find out, when my friend was in the accident, the battery, the thing that holds the battery, cracked. So the battery was touching the side of the truck. Well, my friend comes and we swap cars, and I get to the date late. So I get to the date. It was a double date, and it went okay. And the guy asked me afterwards. I'm in the back seat with him, and my classmate and his wife were in the front. And he asked me, "Do you want to go on another date?" And it was like all eyes were on me. And so I said, "Okay." So that was like the first. I had to add that first part. That wasn't the bad date, but it's come to find out the guy is a DJ for a local radio station, but he's also a clown.
Oh, he's a clown, like
a professional
for hire,
like Fizbo.
For hire,
he's a Fizbo clown. Okay.
Yeah. So we get to the date. It was really awkward silence and all of that for the meal. Then we went to see a movie at the Dollar Theater, and we're sitting next to each other, and all of a sudden I feel his leg next to my leg, and I move my leg over, and then he's like leaning against me, and I lean over a little bit, and then about part of the way through, he stretches and does the whole arm
thing
over around me.
Wow.
Yeah, and then he goes, this was our first one-on-one date, and after the movie he walks me to the car, and he goes I was gonna give him a hug, and he leans in forward and tries to kiss me, and I just turn my face, and he kisses my cheek.
Yeah.
And I actually later called and left a message. I was like, I don't think we're a good fit. So, but I just the whole thing was quite a disaster.
Wow. Well, just that he was a clown is, I mean, right there. You just went. Of course, he was in full makeup when you went.
Yeah, that was off-putting.
That was sure. That probably was a problem when you poked him in the red nose there or something. Wow. What an odd.
All right, so I'm a little creeped out because of the way he would move his leg and then he would lean and then the arm thing. I mean, that's creepy.
Yeah.
But what he does for a living, at least on the side, is he goes to children's birthday parties.
Yeah, yeah.
So
That's what he does.
I'm not digging this guy.
Well, even, I mean, it's also cues, social cues are pretty clear as well. You
totally.
move in.
He was missing them 100%.
Right. So he missed the first one. Okay, you give him that one. But then the second one and the third, that's...
Well, and putting her on the spot in the car.
Yeah, sure.
Like, do you want to go on another date? Like, in front of everybody like that. So loser alert, big time.
Well, now he's out in the woods.
I have a truck.
Clowns go now.
That the case that holds the battery in place, my 1973 Chevy pickup, is rusted out, and we have to strap it down, or otherwise the battery will fall around.
Wow!
And if the wrong anode touches touches the side of the truck,
scared the shit out of me.
Yeah,
let me tell you.
Yeah.
My gosh. Well, there you go. And how about brushes with greatness? Have you ever, because you have your dog and cat sitting
in L.A.
Have you ever met any big stars or?
No, but I mean, I did personal chauffeur and assistant for princess from Saudi Arabia.
Really? You drove a car, or you drove a limo or something?
Yeah, a car.
A car.
Yeah. I was with her all day, basically. Like, her mom wanted her to have someone that she could, when family and friends weren't around, she wouldn't be alone. So that's why they wanted a woman driver.
Saudi royalty?
Yep.
Wow.
How about that? I hope she tipped you pretty good.
Well, her mom was the boss.
Oh, okay. Well,
wait. Women can be bosses in Saudi Arabia? They can have authority?
We're in America.
Oh, okay.
In America, it's okay. It's cool. You can dress
they're over here.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah. And so that's probably the closest I came to any sort of famous people. I mean,
yeah.
It'll
happen. It'll happen out there in L.A. So,
well, Colleen, I appreciate you sharing your story. You got anything you want to say to put a bow on it?
Go out there and be the difference in your world and find that meaning for yourself. Really go out of your comfort zone, whoever you are, because that's where life is outside of that comfort zone.
Colleen Jousma.
Yeah.
Sweetheart.
Yeah, terrific. Very, very interesting. Man, I learned a lot in that, first 10, 15 minutes. Wow. Stuff about the Seventh-day Adventists. I had no clue.
I don't know much about that denomination either, and I did not know this. I mean, obviously, I've read the book of Revelation. I know about all these angels and stuff, but when she said the message of the three angels, it was very specific.
Right.
And I was like, I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
So
but isn't that interesting? That's what denominations do. Schisms do. They take these oddball little things and turn it into a religion.
Yeah.
One little line or one little segment of the Bible.
Yeah. I think it speaks to the need, the human need. Again, I love going back to Ernest Becker's, denial of death and what compels a human being to latch onto something, and it's important that we get it right. The emphasis on Saturday over Sunday.
Yeah,
for example,
which is huge. I didn't realize
the mark of the beast to them was those that attend church on Sunday.
Church, wow.
That worship on Sunday. They've got it wrong. They've got it so wrong that they are in cahoots with the Antichrist by just pushing it back a day. Which
I'm sorry.
Which is a construct within a construct within a construct, right? Because the 7-day week or the 24-hour day. I mean, we do have the cycle of the sun and everything, but the fact that we've broken it into 7 and 30 and things like that's just human construct.
Yes, right. All constructs, right. Just to keep the chaos from being overwhelming. Yeah.
Well, and what if way back and before the Greek calendar was formed, it's Wednesday.
That's right. It's Monday.
And every day. My point is that the strong urge to be right. Yeah. And so when you latch onto something, this is it. They found that in Revelation 14. These three angels, that's
it.
And we like 3-point sermons. We like concise. Right. We like formulas.
Right. Rule of 3. Right.
Rule of 3. I mean, at the end of the day, we like being able to wrap our mind around something. We hate mystery. We hate chaos. Yeah. We hate nuance.
Well, yeah.
There it is. Those three angels summed it up for us. Thank you very much. And we're going to base our denomination on that message or something. Yeah, I don't know.
Isn't that something? I mean, I just sit here just amazed. I always I always am like this, though. Oh, well.
Well, our friend Ryan Bell
Yeah.
is a Seventh-day Adventist. That's really about the only one that I know. I mean, we've had a couple on the show that have like mentioned that they were influenced by that.
Right. But this is a relatively new religion, too. 1840s, I would think, is when the Millerites started. So it's not that, it's not like an ancient idea. It's relatively new. So.
Did you see any movies this week?
We have. We want to see The Beast, Beauty and the Beast. We haven't
went
seen
or
it.
want to?
We want to. We haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, I haven't either.
It's supposed to be pretty good. I want to see that gay scene, which probably isn't. But, with Josh Gad, who sings about nobody like Garcon, nobody like Garcon, whatever the hell I mean.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I know it's been a controversy, but...
Yeah, isn't it interesting? The controversy starts a week before the movie starts. Oh, really?
Yeah.
So it's all bullshit
It's
show
staged.
business. Yeah, that's what I think. But I always think stuff like that, though.
Yeah.
It seems a little too convenient, to have it sort of there. But
Well, Seth Rogen, when his movie about Russia...
Oh, yeah.
That became, that whole thing, I think that was staged.
That's a good shot. However, they did lose money on that one, though.
No way.
Yeah.
Even though it was pay-per-view and everybody wanted to see it?
Well, maybe now it's fine. But during the what do they call it? The opening at the theaters, it wasn't. And it's okay. It's not a great movie.
No, it's not. But there was
funny.
just a lot of drama around it.
Sure.
That I think was meant to create attention.
Yeah.
Well, the best thing that ever happened to, like, say, The Last Temptation of Christ was Christians protesting it.
Oh, absolutely.
It might have not done anything. And thanks to the...
that's the way to do it, man. Get a little controversy going and get a little profile. So, news loves that, he said, she said. Kind of
I've been watching the Hulu series, and I think it's a Hulu original series, The Path.
The Path, that's about the
Meyerists.
Yes, the Meyerists. Ooh.
And what made me think of it is you're talking about the Millerites, and it just made it's pretty close to home for us ex-Christians. I mean,
Really?
it's a cult, but it's a progressive cult, and it's compoundy in that they live together.
Oh boy, why do people do that? Why do people like to
Community, man, it's powerful. It feels great.
Really?
Oh, hell yeah!
I mean, I'd sooner sit on the porch with a beer.
Well, you're an introvert,
but I mean, I wouldn't mind having you over. But I'm
you
not.
got to leave at some point.
Yeah.
No, these are
true.
I enjoyed. I mean, at one point in my life, we lived in very close proximity with several other families in the church who had kids the similar age as our kids, and we'd do dinner all the time, like spontaneous stuff. That kind of stuff is really, I love it. As far as, let's say you are on the porch and we live close enough to where I see smoke wafting from your porch and I go, hey, Bob's out on the porch, and I walk over.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, that's community in a compound type. That's the feel of it. You can create your own space, and you must, actually. I mean, that's just human need. But
so you can go and hide somewhere, too.
Well, you have your own space,
Okay. All right, then I could buy that.
The fact that most of us as Americans, we don't know our neighbors. I mean, I wish that we could just go outside and see other people outside and then just have a impromptu conversation.
It would be nice if there were more porches.
I do.
Where
I
you
think so.
Just sit outside and, hey, how you doing?
But anyway, The Path has been hard to watch and to some degree because he is leaving. I mean, one of the main protagonists, and yet his wife is staying and his children stay, and it causes a rift in their family and their marriage. And it's, I don't know, man.
It's a hard one.
It's hard. It has been a divisive thing in real people's lives here on the show and in my friendship circles.
Oh, of course.
Where it's divided marriages, divided families. And yet he's having second thoughts about, like, maybe the path, the light is true. And see, this is what we were talking about with the hauntings of hell, and how you were a little bit surprised that atheists that have deconstructed were still haunted by this.
Yeah.
And I personally have
twist.
counseled with people recently that, they know it's probably bullshit, but there's just that what if. It's that, Pascal's wager. What if?
Oh, I see.
The stakes are high if we're wrong. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I've been deconverted I've been under the label atheist for about 7 years. But my deconversion has almost been lifelong. As far as the moment I joined Christianity, I started questioning it.
Yeah.
But I've just picked it apart to where nothing was left. And I really feel strongly that it is so evidential that no one is running this place. The odds of me asking and praying to you as opposed to praying to God would be the exact same results because of just the law of large numbers and things that we talk about all the time. No one is listening. No one is responding. Prayer does not work any more than just wishful thinking does. I get that. There is no God. And then there's sometimes where I can't hardly believe that I've stopped believing. Like, look at this beautiful planet. Surely there's a mastermind behind it, whatever. And we just waffle around back and forth and tossed around with anxieties.
Sure.
And and hell's not one of my Achilles heels, but it is for some people, and just because the stakes are so high.
Wow.
Eternal suffering or eternal separation from God or whatever. Who knows what it is?
Yeah, I don't know.
It never crosses your mind.
I don't think about it. Yeah. I don't know why I don't think about it, but it's just it's an extra burden I don't need, I guess.
Right. And you're lucky to not have it.
Oh, well, okay. I didn't get that gene, as they say.
No, it's not a gene. I guess it's a gene.
It's a cultural thing, I'm sure.
But somehow you never bought in.
Yeah. No.
That does sound like a gene.
Maybe.
Who knows?
Oh, well. Well, we'll try again. Maybe we'll get it right next time.
Good talk. See you out there.
See you next time.
Summertime, and the living is easy. Fish are jumping, and the cotton is high. Nothing can harm.